you know, the the pandemic obviously is pretty much what everybody's thinking about right now. And you, as somebody who has had a lot of experience in a lot of very chaotic environments, a lot of experience with a lot of uncertainty, fear, things of that nature, what advice would you have for people listening about how to get through these very, very strange times and come out the other end in good shape? Like what are you doing? What's your advice to people?
I have been fortunate that I've seen my own mortality,
Yeah.
and I've seen it closely a couple of times, and more than a couple of times. And so for me, I think the first thing people have to recognize is that every day matters.
Yeah.
Life on Earth is transient. None of us are going to live to be 100 years old, but respect the fact that it's transient for everybody.
Yeah.
And so I think take advantage of, do things now that you've just ignored, or you've had the excuse that you haven't had time to do it.
Yeah.
In the past, you've had legitimate reasons you couldn't do it. Do those things.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the answer is on the pandemic. I think that the world can, the world will, you can set an example that's different than the political example.
Yeah.
You can move outside of the political realm, and everyone has their preferences. Everyone has their tribal influences. We all do.
For sure.
But how do you move outside of that? Well, you focus on the stuff that's really important to you and to your family. And I mean, you've got kids, I've got kids. My focus is on them. I want them to have a good life, and I want them to look back 20, 30 years from now. And I read an article, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal opinion page, but it was, man, when you and I were kids, we had, I guess we graduated high school, we had like the Somalia thing was going on.
Yeah.
We had David Koresh. Anyway, those are all like individual things. Our kids are going to grow up and say, man, the whole world was locked down.
Isn't that amazing?
Pandemic.
Yeah.
And that happened in the year 2020. And I was just a kid when that happened. Someday they're going to have that conversation.
Yeah.
And what are they going to look back and remember? And I don't know about you, but I remember my grandparents and when they died, and I looked in the Foot Locker, there were still food stamps and war bonds and rations. And I was like,
Yeah.
You know what? Our kids are going to have some memory like that.
Yep.
And how do we help them understand that this too shall pass?
Yeah.
But man, what an interesting time that you've got a timestamp as a kid in this global pandemic. For the first time in history, the whole world shut down.
It's absolutely unprecedented, and it is nothing like this has ever happened in human history. And what I was thinking about early on during the pandemic, Blake, was how it's so rare. It happens every once in a while, but it's so rare that an event happens that literally impacts all of human consciousness in every corner of the globe. And that's all everybody's talking about. The last thing I can think about that was maybe similar to that was 9/11.
Right.
And I remember, like most people do, I remember exactly where I was, I remember exactly what I was doing on 9/11. I've been a journaler for a long time, and I still occasionally go back and look at my 9/11 journal entry, because the very first sentence says things will never be the same. And they weren't, and they haven't been. And I don't think things will ever be the same after this pandemic either, although I am optimistic that things will change for the better, because this pandemic will show us that there's certain things that maybe we should rethink and that we can do a little bit better, and certain things that maybe we should continue to do that we do well. But I'm cautiously optimistic that the pandemic, once we kind of get through this, it'll make us stronger, not only as a country, but as a species.